Even to those who aren't huge DC fans, it's pretty obvious that Batman is one of the smartest superheroes in the universe, if not arguably the single smartest superhero out there, limited human capabilities aside. There are pretty much zero characters within DC that haven't come up against Batman's incredible intellect, and the practically paranoid level of planning that he carries out. Whether it proves that Batman has god-tier intellect and tactical knowledge, or just that he's really bad at trusting anyone but himself is unclear. But what is clear is that if you spend more than 3 minutes in a room with the masked vigilante, chances are he's constructed a plan to destroy you, and it's surprisingly one of the most endearing qualities the Dark Knight has. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 times Batman outsmarted everyone. Number 10, JLA New World Order. With the first issue of the 1997 to 2006 Justice League of America comic, there was truly no better way to kick off the new run than by highlighting all the heroes' new abilities. While this was done for the whole team, Batman unmistakably gets the best moments within the New World Order storyline, as the plot seems focused on showing just how terrifying the targeted planning of Batman can be. After the white Martians that are targeting the League write Batman off as just a human, hoo boy, the Knight begins doing what he does best, as he strikes fear first into the hearts of aliens by sneakily taking out one of their number, and then single-handedly defeats 4 more by using their fear of fire to force them to concede. It's all enough that one of the Martians begins to genuinely try and figure out what Batman's superpower actually is, completely missing the most intimidating part about the hero, that even without powers, he can do absolutely anything. Now, I don't know about you, but this moment was rendered in potentially traumatizing detail during the Justice League cartoon of the early noughties. I know, it's not a beat-for-beat adaptation of Morrison's Justice League, but just picture 5-year-old Ewan looking on in horror as Batman is seemingly blasted to death by those pesky white Martians, only for him to jump out the rafters and spoil that big-brained squid thing's plan. My hero. Number 9, The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns is probably one of the best examples of how an aged Batman would behave, namely in that he would not, and would try to do heroic stunts way beyond that which his body could manage. Although it initially appears that his cause of death was a fight with Superman gone wrong, it is later revealed that his fight has actually gone very right, and that Batman has faked his death in order to disappear from the public eye and train the next generation of vigilantes. While the plan is ever so slightly ruthless, as it appears to bank on not telling many people who are close to him, such as Selina, shown grieving at his funeral, this is perhaps what makes it work best, as aside from Superman and Robin, there is nobody who can spread the secret of the Dark Knight's continued existence. Having Batman's final public moment be part of an elaborate scheme to convince everyone he's died is perhaps the most in-character way to have the character retire, even if it is a little bit sad. Number 8, Defeating Prometheus. Of the many enemies Batman has faced in his years, Prometheus has to be up there in the villains that have genuinely posed a proper threat to him. With the helmet that programs insane martial arts skills and reflexes into his nervous system, Prometheus has the advantage literally programmed into himself, being able to learn skills that took Batman years to master in literal minutes. And yet, this doesn't stop Batman absolutely destroying the villain upon their second encounter. When Oracle damages Prometheus' newest helmet, he reverts to his old backup, which Batman had been able to study, and uses his newfound knowledge to hack into it. From this, the Dark Knight carries out the single most innovative takeout possible, reprogramming all of Prometheus' fighting prowess into the limited physical capabilities of talented scientist Stephen Hawking, who is afflicted with motor neuron disease. Elaborate takedowns are not unusual for Batman to dish out, but managing to completely flip a situation from something unwinnable to almost easy will always remind us of just how smart Batman is, and just how scary that he can be at that. Number 7, No Man's Land. While Batman is placed in a position of trying to retake Gotham for most of No Man's Land, the series did make it evident that the hero can outsmart just about everyone he needs to, without any plan whatsoever. From Ventriloquist, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and pretty much any villain he can lay his hands on, Batman slowly extracts their control over the city, and begins to slowly replace it with his own law and order, albeit a rudimentary sort, given the limited capabilities and supplies Gotham has throughout the series. The level of planning this requires shows us the intense amount of thought Batman puts into every aspect of his hero identity, as everything from building the mythos of Batman to working out how to build a society that still functions when he's not directly present is explained on the page. A lot of comics require you to already assume that Batman is intelligent to believe he is capable of his feats. In No Man's Land, you could begin reading thinking Batman was a complete moron, and you'd still think he was capable of outsmarting anyone by the time you got to the end. Number 6, Batman Hush. Given that you can't really prepare for someone using their considerable surgeon skills to make their face the perfect mirror of your own, it's pretty impressive that Batman practically managed to do just that in Batman Hush. More impressive, however, is the way that the hero slowly pieces together the mystery of who Hush is over the course of the comic, in a way that feels very believable while still being about the extravagant cast of Batman's rogues gallery. It's by far one of the best detective stories of the world's greatest detective, and the genuine mystery Hush's identity creates only serves to reinforce the actual cognitive skills the Dark Knight has worked so tirelessly to attain. As if to emphasize this just a little further, the comic also contains Batman interrogating the Riddler on how he learned his true identity, and manages to ensure that his secret will never be leaked by Enigma by reminding him that, should it be leaked, the Riddler would no longer be special for knowing it, adding that final clever moment to a series chock full of them. Number 5. JLA/Avengers. Aside from Iron Man, Captain America is perhaps the one Avenger that people like to imagine in theoretical fights against Batman. And so, when the JLA Avengers crossover was announced, many presumed that this climactic battle would finally go from theoretical to on the pages of a real comic. But of course, as impressive as an all-out fight between the two could have been, what actually occurs is a small grapple that is over in the space of a few panels. Somehow this doesn't feel like a letdown, as instead of fighting, Batman tells Captain America that, while either of them could win the fight, the true enemy is whoever put them up against each other in the first place, in a move that manages to take the two of them from fighting to the superhero equivalent of buddy cops for the rest of the series. Sometimes Batman being smart isn't him taking down an enemy, but rather recruiting them instead. Number 4. Final Crisis. There's something naturally soothing to the brain to see Batman encounter smug villains with superiority complexes, and then watch him mercilessly dunk on them with elaborate, intelligent plans. And of all the DC villains, Darkseid is undeniably the smuggest, and thus the most satisfying to see taken down by Batman himself. Upon learning that Orion and Darkseid have roughly the same genetic makeup, Batman analyzes the bullet that took Orion out until he finds its most important component, radion. Building a radion bullet and a gun specially made for it, the Dark Knight hunts Darkseid down and straight up shoots him with it, breaking his one rule this time to save the world. While this scheme only works with some later temporal shenanigans with the help of the Flash, it's still mind-blowingly impressive that Batman managed to take down Darkseid in a way that was still somehow totally in character. Try me indeed. Number 3. JLA, Tower of Babel. With the vast majority of Batman's outsmarting moments aimed at undermining supervillains, it's particularly interesting to see one of the few times that Batman's skills were aimed against his fellow Justice League members. The most brutal example here is Tower of Babel, where it was revealed that Batman has contingency plans prepared to take out any and all members of the Justice League, something they find out when Ra's al Ghul steals these plans and actively uses them against them. The rest of the team are justifiably not best pleased, and this serves to highlight one particularly important part of Batman's ability to outsmart everyone, in that it sometimes returns to bite him in the Kevlar-clad ass. Although the heroes do eventually stop Ra's, the fact it was the Dark Knight's scheme in the first place sets his teammates totally against him, and results in him being kicked out of the Justice League in the same issue, in a move that neither party can be quite blamed for. Number 2. Batman Rock of Ages. True to the badass name that is Rock of Ages, the series sees maybe one of Batman's finest moments yet, as the hero manages to outsmart Metron, who is supposed to be one of the smartest characters in the DC universe due to his 12th level intellect. However, the comic proves that a 12th level intellect isn't enough to dodge getting a mean left hook to the face, as Batman manages to convince Metron to drop his invulnerability in order to be able to empathize with the mortal heroes. The minute Metron does, Batman knocks him out cold, and then injects him with a hypnotic agent into his bloodstream, meaning the heroes now have him as a somewhat reluctant ally. Given how much Metron is built up as a new god with powers equatable to Darkseid, having Batman outsmart him is a perfect way to highlight the Dark Knight's intelligence. Number 1. Batman R.I.P. If anyone were to tell you that one of the smartest Batman plans of all time involved him repressing a secret alter ego in his own psyche that only ever came out in emergencies, you would presume they were completely insane. Yet, this exact plot point, which is unveiled in all its glory in Batman R.I.P., is without a doubt one of the cleverest ways Batman has ever outsmarted anyone to date. In full, entirely surreal Technicolor, the Dark Knight recovers from the systematic assault the Black Love have launched upon him by becoming something entirely other, as his training kicks in and reboots the repressed alter ego to take over. The story is undeniably incredibly weird, with Batmite at one point stating that Bruce created the Zero-Nar alter ego after having a hallucination of an all-powerful alternate universe Batman during our hero going through a space isolation experiment, which is somehow infinitely weirder than a grown man wearing a skin-tight spandex suit to punch people in. And yet, somehow, despite that, it contains one of the most classic Batman moments to date. Long live Zero-Nar. And that was our list. Do you know of any other occasions where the world's greatest detective outsmarted the competition? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as it really does help us out. As always, I've been Ewan. Catch mine and Zoe's articles over on whatculture.com/comics, and I'll see you next time. Bye!